Hi there, everyone. This is Tom from Escape Artist, and I have the pleasure today of interviewing, I think, the luckiest guy in the world. I mean, you dream of being on a little island with palm trees, and you see that picture in the magazine, and you go, man, I wonder where that picture's from. Well, it's exactly the same place where Joe Soecker is sitting right now, and that is in Fiji. I mean, of all places, you talk about the ultimate escape artist. You're breaking my heart here, Joe. I mean, somebody's got to live a tough life in Fiji, and it happens to be you, right?
Well, let me tell you, someone's got to do it, so it better be me. But yeah, it's certainly a fantastic place to hang out, and it's great to meet you, and thank you very much for the chance to talk to you and your viewers. Thank you.
Well, let me give everybody a little heads up. In this interview, we're going to be talking about living in Fiji, believe it or not. And I have to tell you, after what I have learned, it doesn't sound like there's a better place on earth. I mean, it sounds like absolute heaven, from living expenses to the quality of food to the quality of water to the temperature. It's got everything going for it, and Joe is going to fill us in on all the details. We try and provide information that helps people realize their escape artist dream, and that means not only helping people with where to live, but more importantly, how to live. And we know that the 4 F's typically keep people back from realizing their escape artist dream, and that is the fear, family, finances, and friends. And we'll be talking a little bit about that in this interview, but Joe, I really would like to know, how did you get to Fiji? How'd this all come about? And, how'd you land there? And tell me a little bit about your background so people know who you are.
Yes, it's been quite a journey, actually, over the years. The first time I think I went to Fiji was to go surfing. I used to live in Hawaii in the United States, and this was about 20 odd years ago. And what struck me is that it's a fantastically rich country, both culturally, the smiles of the people, the fantastic weather, the cleanliness of the beaches, the lack of industry, so to say. It was a great destination to come as a tourist, and then it's always stuck in my mind as a plan B, which sort of developed more and more into a plan A as I was spending more and more time in the U.S. And I was sort of just looking around me, reading and educating myself about the things that were happening around me. And I can honestly tell you I didn't agree with a whole lot that was going on. And so I'd always had that desire to have the opportunity to be in a different place, something with a lower cost of living, something where, my kids could grow up without drugs, without, a lot of traffic, without all the scares of modern life, and particularly without a lot of television and things like that. So I've looked everywhere in the Pacific. I went to the Cook Islands, I went to Tahiti, I went to Vanuatu, I went to most of these other places, but kept coming back to Fiji. And about 14 years ago, I purchased some property here. I got to know a fellow, David Miller, who's been doing real estate here for over 24 years. And we became good friends, and it sort of all fell into place, and that brought me here permanently. And so now that's what I'm doing. I'm working for one of the funniest guys that I've ever met, and I've got a pretty cool job. I get to share my experiences with other people that come from all over the world. We've got clients from 26 countries, and essentially we share, that we'd love to live in a beautiful place. A lot of us wouldn't mind having a couple of acres, growing our own food. Having solar homes. I live in a house that's completely independent. I don't have any wires going into my house. I've got solar panels. I've got a water catchment system. I drink the water that comes off the roof. It's fantastically clean. As you know, Fiji water is popular all over the world, and here in Fiji, every water,
I got it right here.
Fiji water.
This came right off of Joe's roof right here. I mean, straight off your roof. So I appreciate you sending this to me. I paid $2.75 for your roof water last night at Starbucks. So, but it is definitely great water. Don't quite know if that one comes directly from Fiji, but maybe 10% of it does.
No, actually, all of it comes from Fiji. We've been to the plant. We've looked at everything here, and they're doing also a great job locally here, supporting the local economy. And it's one of our biggest exports here in the Fiji Islands. And so, as I was saying, I wanted to live in a place that's clean, that's safe, particularly English speaking, because obviously learning another language isn't the easiest thing. So for me, being in a country where English is the predominant school language and the majority of people speak it relatively fluently, That made a lot of difference for me. And then the other thing was obviously owning property is quite easy here. We've got about 10% of the land that's fee simple, freehold, can be bought by foreigners of most other countries, United States, America, and then New Zealand, Australia as well, which is predominantly where our buyers come from. And you get a free and clear title. This is sort of what it looks like here. And that's basically what we sell, together with support for immigration, staying in the country, getting bank accounts sorted out, all these kind of things. Basically, if somebody comes to me today, I have the opportunity to share with them what I've learned over the 12 years that I've been involved in this. And, I can basically relate to where they're coming from. And having been in recovery from Western civilization for quite some time now, I can, sort of share my story with them. And it's a fantastic job. I'm really enjoying what I'm doing.
That's great. Well, it's kind of like being in Fantasy Island, isn't it? I mean, you have all these people coming from all over the world that have a dream, and you kind of feel like Ricardo Montalban, I bet, sometimes, huh?
To some degree, I'm still hesitant about wearing those white pants, but I'd like to have somebody jumping up and down when my plane lands.
That's funny. So let's talk about, our average person says, okay, well, first I want to come visit and I want to check the place out. How long can I stay? What's your recommendation to do for the person that says, okay, I've got, $150,000, $250,000 in savings and I want to come to Fiji. What do I do next?
Well, I'd say contact me, first of all, and get a little bit of a rapport going. Tell me what you're looking for. The more I know from the other person on the other end, the better I can recommend. So I generally listen, in this interview you'll hear me talk a lot, but I do listen a lot more because I try to cater things to the desires of the people that contact me. So bottom line is, if somebody says, look, we've got this amount of a budget. We'd like to do this. We'd like to do this right away. We have a 5-year plan. We have a 10-year plan. Then we can really work this out. And if somebody, let's say, they don't have a whole lot of money, they're not a multimillionaire, in Fiji, it can definitely be done. If you look at a good property, walking distance to the beach, you're probably looking at 30 to 50,000 US. That's an acre of land, so that's quite substantial. Allows you to build a nice home, grow some of your own food if you like, or get a gardener, which is also very inexpensive to do that for you. So let's say, you spend 50,000 on the land, and another 50,000 would probably get you a decent timber 2-bedroom home. So you're looking at about 100,000 initial investment. And that also gets you residency here in Fiji. Any investment over 60,000 US actually gets you residency initially for 3 years, and then you can extend it indeterminately. So in the end, you can become a citizen if you so choose to. That's after 5 years of staying here, but it's not absolutely necessary. If you're a US citizen, you can have other citizenships, and you can certainly be a resident here in Fiji. And it doesn't interfere with any of your other affiliations by country, or you don't have to give up your citizenship anywhere else, which is a really good thing.
Right. Tell me about.
Sorry, go ahead.
Tell me about the people that come there, and some fail at being a Fijian and some succeed at being a Fijian. So what's the determining factor of the people who come there and really embrace it, and those that walk away with their tail tucked? You've been there long enough. What have you seen?
Right. Obviously, we have our success stories, and then we have, people who fail to certain degrees or find out that, this is not for them. I think, honestly, wherever you go, there you are. So that's always my policy. And I tend to be very open with people. These are the things that you can expect from a first world nation to some degree. Into a second to third world nation. So don't expect things to be exactly the way they are at home, which is probably something you shouldn't, because you're trying to get away from where you are to begin with. So leave a little bit of that Western personality behind. This is not a very individualistic culture. This is a communal culture. It's a very traditional culture. They're extremely lovely people. Probably the happiest people in the world. We just actually won the Wallop Poll of having the happiest population in the world. If somebody wanted to Google that, that just came out a few weeks ago. So the Fijians are actually the happiest people in the world, and they're happy to share that happiness. They're extremely inviting people. So if you come, they also have a very uncanny ability of seeing who you are. If you come with a great story, if you don't mind sharing, if you're an open-minded person, if you want to immerse yourself in a different culture, and that is a different culture here in Fiji. It's a family-oriented culture. It's a traditional culture, not nearly as individualistic as what you're used to in the West. So, have an open mind if you come here. Don't expect everything to be the same way as it is at home, because if you're not patient and you don't know how to bide your time, then it'll probably break you. You really have to plan well. That's the other thing. The worst that you can do is just sell everything at home and come and expect everything to be a certain way. It's good to come visit, look at the properties, talk to us, some of the neighbors that you'll have. It is really a process. I would never encourage anyone to just break up tents and run to a tropical island in the middle of the sea. It does take a bit of research, and it does also take a bit of money. So you need to plan properly. That's quite honestly the best recommendation that I can give people. Talk to me, talk to some of the other people that have done it. You'll be surprised all the things that you can learn.
Let's talk about bringing a container in. Can you give any specifics on bringing a container in as far as taxes and, cost and things like that for somebody who's moving a 20 or 40-foot container down there?
Well, it depends obviously where they're coming from. So, some people may come from the East Coast, some come from the West Coast. So obviously the costs are quite different. If you wanted to bring a container over, if you apply for residency, you can actually bring one in, an entire container duty free. If you get residency, that's household items, things like that. So that's definitely a good opportunity if you want to bring a lot of stuff. There's also a lot of things you can buy here. So if you like to travel light, bringing things across an ocean costs money. So you don't necessarily need all the stuff that you have at home. I don't know if you want your kids to play on the Xbox all day while they could be playing on the beach, making new friends. So along with this, along with moving into a different lifestyle, hopefully there's a change of paradigm too. You don't want to watch TV all day when you're on a tropical island. You want to go out paddling, go out swimming, snorkeling, surfing, do some fun stuff, meet your neighbors. That's probably why you want to get away in the first place. So you might not want to bring everything that you've accumulated in the States. Everything that you own ties you down, and repairing things costs money. So, maybe it's good to travel light sometimes.
Great. What about, let's talk about, how about healthcare, getting into some of the quality of life issues. What does one do for healthcare in Fiji?
Well, we have several hospitals. Healthcare, first of all, is free in Fiji. Even if you're not a Fiji citizen, you can go to the hospital and utilize the healthcare services here. They're not as far to par with the United States, which obviously you pay a lot for the healthcare that you get there. We also have a private hospital here where you can get a health plan, which will, depending on your age, obviously, status of health, might cost you about $100 to $125 a month. So a fraction of what it costs you in the United States, but a little bit more, obviously, if you have a family or if you have pre-existing conditions, things like that. So the private hospital here in Suva, where I'm currently, which is the capital of Fiji, they provide really good services. You have x-rays, you have good doctors from India and New Zealand as well. We've got an MRI here in the country now. And if there's any real emergency where you'd have to have a significant surgery, we also have fantastic healthcare in New Zealand, which is only a 2-hour flight away. And New Zealand healthcare is world renowned, and it's also significantly cheaper than having things done in the U.S.
Right. What, as far as, let's talk about education. If somebody was to come there and bring kids, say that were under in their teens or grade school, what are the educational options?
We have schools, obviously, from kindergarten all the way through university here in the islands. Depending on where you are in the islands, we've got 300 of them. So 6 bigger islands where you have more educational opportunities, and then the university, obviously, here on the main island, which is Viti Levu, the biggest island in Fiji. So if you're on a smaller island, immerse your children into a local school. I mean, there's no problem. The school fees are next to nothing compared to what you pay in the United States, $50 a year, something like that. Also supplement, you're laughing, supplement the local education with some homeschooling. That's probably something you want to do because the education is geared towards Fijian citizens and Fijian kids. So you do want to supplement it a little bit homeschooling to, probably expand things like geography, history, social science, anthropology, things that are interesting in a well-rounded, not a consumer, but a citizen.
Sure. So I know that with my business, I rely a lot on the internet to be able to operate. For somebody that has a portable business where they can live anywhere in the world, we have an extremely clear connection right now between Atlanta and Fiji. So just for everybody knowing, we're almost in different on different days right now, and having the ability to communicate like this is pretty awesome. But it looks like the technology, the bandwidth is pretty strong there.
Absolutely. On the main island, we've got 3G coverage all around, and obviously that will, exponentially grow over the other islands. It's also on the second largest island now that we've got 3G coverage. So if you've got an internet business, you're basically getting paid overseas. You don't have to pay any taxes in Fiji. So it's a great opportunity. As internet gets better and better here, 5 years ago, we would have not had the opportunity to do what we're doing now, but now it's already all there. So obviously that's growing quicker and quicker every year. On the smaller island where we've got a great development, we've got our own satellite uplink, so we can Skype as well. If you're living on a very remote island, you can even get your own satellite uplink, which costs a little bit more. But here on the main island, for example, you pay a $30, $35 a month fee like you would do in the U.S., and you've got coverage. So you can be home.
Gotcha. And so I assume, like in a lot of places, a lot of people just use cell phones, landlines, and things like that are not really existent anymore. And I know in some of these different countries, but it seems like cell phone seems to be the coverage now.
Absolutely. And you can carry your cell phone anywhere. If you bring a phone, let's say from the U.S., all you have to do is get it unlocked. Just don't tell your provider in the U.S., and you can put a local SIM card in it, and you won't have to pay the outrageous fees that that you have to pay when you travel abroad. So that's all possible these days. And even mail service, I get my mail that I still get in the United States. I just get a PO box and they scan it for me. I see my mail on the internet and I can deal with it. So I can actually pretty much virtually when it comes to business. And it allows me, at the end of the day, I go out paddling in the bay, or I go snorkeling, or I can go hiking. And I'm in a place like this, but I can still run a business without a problem.
Sure. Now I know that down in Panama, for a U.S. citizen to try and go in and open a bank account is like pulling teeth nowadays, and it doesn't seem like anybody anywhere in the world wants to open a bank account for a U.S. citizen. What's it like in Fiji?
Well, you still have the option to do that. As far as I know, the IRS is cooking up some really interesting things in 2014 where, the U.S. citizen has to declare all their bank accounts abroad. I can't go too deeply into that because I don't know all the laws that are coming out in the United States, but it's certainly worth some research. As long as you declare your income as a U.S. citizen, you should be fine. Right. And opening a bank account here is no problem. All you do is, you put $250 minimum deposit in, then you bring your passport, and, that's pretty much it. And you can do online banking. That's what a lot of people do here that live on the outer islands. Basically, all their banking, all their communication is all done virtually. So we're definitely at a spot where that can all be done.
Okay, great. Let's talk a little bit about real estate. Dollar amounts. We've got people, our readership, different income levels from, $150,000 wanting to invest $150,000 up to the guy that maybe has $1 million or $2 million that wants to buy a decent tract of land and maybe do his own development. Can you talk about the real estate opportunities in Fiji?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, 90% of the land in Fiji is held in tribal trust, which we'll probably talk about that later, which also makes us very welcome here. We only deal with 10% of the land. So we're not the people that come and they take the land and sell it off to foreigners. We actually deal with a very small margin of land here in Fiji, while the rest of the land is actually held by the people, by the Fijians. So that also brings about this welcome that I've talked about. It makes it much easier to come into a foreign culture. If you're not seen as the intruder, you're more or less seen as part of an economic engine, because you build homes, you provide jobs, you do things like that. So, my experience in other places, particularly South America, that had been colonized in various ways before, there was always that rift between Caucasians and the people that lived there. We're not in the position here that have that. We're actually surrounded by people that are really welcoming to us. They're quite curious. White people are more interesting than television sometimes. And, we're funny. For them, white people are funny. And then hell, we are sometimes, the things we do. And, in terms of real estate, coming back to that question, if somebody comes over here, like I said earlier, they can, buy a property in acres starting at around 20,000, 25,000 US. And, we even finance that, at 10% down. The company that I work for here, it's a Uni development company. It's Fiji real estate essentially. And, we basically own our properties. We own all the titles outright. We have all the titles ready for transference. And if somebody pays 10% down, we can finance the properties for up to 10, sometimes even 12 or 15 years, depending on the price of the property. And there's no time limit on building. If somebody wants to buy something now, put the 10% down, pay it off over 5 years and then come over. There's no preset time limit on somebody having to build within 2 years or so. That just doesn't apply here. And like I said, the other thing, you get a free and clear title. It's all backed up, obviously, by the lands department here. Things move a little bit slower in terms of title transfers, but it's all checked properly. We work with prominent solicitors, attorneys here, and we've done it for 20 years now. We've moved over 2,000 properties, like I said, to people from 26 countries. So, we've got a really, really good established track record, and we make sure that people are happy coming here and getting them organized, everything from residency to bank accounts to the property purchase itself. If somebody wanted to buy something bigger, they'd have to talk to me, obviously, let me know what you're looking for. If you wanted to do your own subdivision, if you wanted to, look for a little resort, things like that. Those are all, things that we can organize and look for you. Predominantly, my clientele are people that are either, I'd say from 35 to 55, sort of a bit younger than the baby boomers, and a lot of baby boomers. Predominantly what they want to do is they either want to have a vacation home here, come 2 to 6 months out of the year, and just have a good time while it's winter somewhere else. But increasingly it's people that do want to get away from where they are, whether it's the United States or Australia, New Zealand. The story that I hear is always the same. It's too much crime, it's gangs, it's drugs, it's the cost of living predominantly. I mean, if you're just wanting to eat healthy here and you have your house set up, it'll be difficult to spend $1,000 a month.
Wow.
You get a house girl, you've got a gardener, even a personal trainer if you wanted to. All this is very, very inexpensive. The Fijians are great caregivers. If somebody wanted to go into retirement, they need a bit of help. Fijian women are just fantastic caregivers. Most people don't know this, but most caregivers in the Bay Area are actually from Fiji.
Wow.
If you ever look around the Bay Area, there's lots and lots of Fijians there, and they all work in elder care and senior citizen care, just because they're just genuinely caring people. They look after their family. It's a multi-generational approach. They live with everything from the grandkids to the grandparents. Everybody lives together and looks after each other. So in that respect, it's a really great place to live here. And again, back to the cost of living, it's, very, very inexpensive compared to what I'm used to. Obviously, I used to live in Hawaii, which is one of the most expensive states in the United States. But, like I said, I can live on 25% of what I lived there, and I live very comfortably here.
What about, we were talking about retirement. Are there any assisted living facilities on the island for people that need help, or do they typically just buy a house and hire a Fijian?
Exactly, yes. You'd basically have somebody, if you wanted to have somebody live with you full time, you have a mate's quarters or something like that. That's done quite a bit. There's no assisted living facilities that would have Western standards. If there's assisted living, there's some of it for Fijians, but very, very little, simply because most of them, live with their families as they get older.
Well, what are some of the activities, entertainment there? Do they have the nightclubs, and do they have the great restaurants? Tell me a little bit about entertainment. What do people do to have fun there?
Oh, if you live on the main island, there's quite a bit to do in terms of, you've got a movie theater, there's golf courses, there's decent restaurants, there's quite a few hotels on the main island, everything from Hilton to Sheraton to Trent West, and they tend to have very good restaurants as well. If you live on the outer islands, obviously there's a lot less of that, depending on what you're looking for. A lot of people, we've got one fantastic development on an island called Coral, and it's really off the beaten path. It's all solar homes. People grow their own food. They get together in the evenings. They, have beers, play music. You get to know your neighbors like you don't anywhere else, obviously because you're in a much smaller place. On the outer islands, there isn't that much in terms of entertainment. There may be a smaller town nearby or a marina, or there's other expatriates living with you, but then you do create some of your own entertainment. Plus, you get up quite early, it's nice and cool in the mornings, and then you're quite active. You're either working in the garden or, like I said, I go paddling a lot and I do water sports. And at the end of the day, I'm quite tired. I don't need to go to a nightclub, quite frankly. I'm sort of done with that. We play pool or play an instrument or do things like that. But I'm sort of getting a bit too old for the nightclubs there.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about a little bit about the weather. We heard the term cyclonic activity and seismic activity. Those are obviously issues with people. What goes on in Fiji as it relates to the weather?
Well, we're sort of in the middle of what you would call the ring of fire that goes all the way around the Pacific. Anywhere from New Zealand, it goes up to Japan, and then it goes up to Alaska, it goes along California, where all these different tectonic plates are in all the rift zones. Fiji is sort of in a unique spot right in the middle. We've got two plates that go underneath where Fiji sits. So when we have earthquakes, they happen extremely deep in the seafloor, and we hardly ever feel anything. I mean, in the 12 years that I've been here, I've never felt an earthquake. The same thing happens with tsunamis. The trenches around Fiji are extremely deep, so the power of the tsunami generally disseminates. So we're also reasonably lucky in that regard. That doesn't mean it may never happen, and I get that a lot. Do people want to buy beachfront, or do they want to be on the hill? Since the thing happened in Japan, I get a lot more people saying, look, we want to be a little bit up on the hillside, and I certainly understand that. And you compare to beachfront, which is always prime real estate, costs a fortune. And then you go uphill and it costs you 20-30% of what a beachfront block costs. Plus you're elevated. You see all the colors of the ocean. I'm sort of a guy that really likes to be higher up on the hill just because you get the fantastic vistas. And there's obviously more land available on the hills than there is on the beach anyway. So we have, for the people that want to be on the beach, we have that. But predominantly lately, especially since the thing happened in Japan last year, I get people that want to be a little bit higher up.
Yeah, are there, I know, are there like 3 to 5 acre lots that can be adjoined that are, if somebody wants to put together a nice little lot, are there any opportunities for that?
There are, yeah. We generally subdivide blocks of an acre in size, but then there's quite a few adjoining ones. So if you, say you wanted to spread out a little bit bigger, have some bigger gardens, or have horses, for example, I've got some people that like that. Or really get into growing food or growing plants, starting a little nursery or something like that. You could certainly buy a couple of adjacent ones as well.
And I know we chatted about this one time before, but what are the things that people just really are going to miss if they move there? I mean, is there grocery stores? Can you get everything, or what exactly is missing in Fiji that would really get to somebody?
I would have to know that person to answer that really truthfully. I can only speak for myself, really. What are some of the things that are missing? I've always enjoyed good cheeses, things like that. Here a lot of these things get imported, and sometimes they're harder to come by. We've got good wine now. That's something that was missing years ago. We've got a lot of good wines from Australia and New Zealand that are coming in, just fantastic quality. It's definitely getting better. We don't have a Mac store or an Apple store. We don't have Starbucks, the things that people take for granted in other places. But you'd be surprised if you really live in a place like this, you'll learn how much you really need. It's a lot less than you think,
Sure.
And you can make your own fantastic iced coffee, and you can make fruit juices, and you can make ice cream, and you can make all those things. It's actually good fun to do. Because you learn that you're a lot less dependent on all these little things that cost so much money.
What about, and I guess this would be one of my final questions, let's talk about crime in Fiji. What's the opportunity with crime?
the opportunity with crime. You got any plans?
No. I said that wrong, didn't I? What is the condition of crime?
Yeah. Well, it's not a whole lot going on, put it that way. Obviously there's crimes of opportunity, little petty property theft, things like that going on every now and then. Like I said, the Fijians are very friendly people, and neighbors look out for each other. So as you establish relationships, you'll also know that your neighbors are looking out for you. There's some things happening on the main island, like I said, the property theft, things like that. On the outer islands, it's even less than that. I'd say what happens in LA in an afternoon will happen here in a year. It's very rare that somebody gets murdered. There's no guns in Fiji. Even the police doesn't have guns. They have big sticks, and they know how to use them in case something goes wrong.
Sure.
There's very little drugs in Fiji. It's extremely hard to come by from what I know. Certainly none of the drugs that you get, the ice and methamphetamines, things like that. If you find somebody smoking a joint here, it's a rarity. And so, in that, all the crime that comes with it is basically non-existent here in Fiji. So, in terms of kids growing up, like I like my kids to grow up, it's very, very safe. Like I said, it's not a lot of traffic. It's a really big place when one thinks about it. We have less than 1 million population on 300 islands, so you can literally go with a boat or with a car, sometimes for an hour, and you will not see another person. It's the one thing that always struck me about Fiji that is so fantastic. There's a lot of land available. It's extremely fertile here. It's extremely clean here. Rainwater, river water. The fields can produce enormous amount of crops. Some of the most fertile places. This is probably one of the most fertile places in the world. And literally, when you're looking at what happens in the world, there's so much overpopulation, so much pollution. We have very little of that. So that makes it a very, very unique place. And people that are researching that will always come back to this place, essentially, because it's one of those few places in the world where you really have an overabundance of natural resources, and you have very few people using them. So in that regard, looking at what happens in the world when I travel, I just, all these places we go to, Singapore, Hong Kong, all these other places, it's so extremely crowded. Even LA or San Francisco, which, are great cities, but it's extremely crowded, and I just can't, just the traffic and the energy of the people. It's really, really difficult when you live in a place like this to transfer over there, even for a week. I just want to come back home, I tell you.
Sure. So, let me recap here, and you can let me know if we've forgotten anything. I think there had something to do with taxes, some type of reduction in taxes. Didn't you mention something where they had changed a recent law or something like that?
Well, one thing that I always get asked, what's property taxes like in Fiji, to start off the tax issue. There's no property taxes in Fiji, so that's another fantastic opportunity or another fantastic benefit, really.
Yeah, wow. That's expensive, Joe. Nothing. I don't know if I can afford nothing. That's pretty expensive.
We're zero. It's just right around there. Yeah. We've got a pretty progressive government. It's very friendly towards foreign investment. Quite interesting. We've had a really recent change in tax code that's quite ironic when I really think about what goes on in the U.S. at the moment. The whole debate with the 99 and the 1%. And, trust me, I still watch U.S. politics. I'm still quite interested in it, but I sort of watch it with a morbid fascination that I watch Fear Factor with. Someone's going to screw up and get hurt. You just don't know who it is and how bad it is. That's really sort of my take on it at the moment. But, here, our government just lowered the tax rate to 10% for 90% of the population. And the top 1% wage earners, on top of their income tax, have to pay a 23% social responsibility levy, believe it or not. And that's a tiny island in the Pacific doing this kind of stuff. Last year, they shut down Kentucky Fried Chicken because they considered it a biohazard to our population.
Well,
it's a pretty cool place.
I won't say anything about that, but I might have to agree with them. So, well, that's great. Let me recap here. Somebody can move to Fiji, or they can, number one, they can get a lot for $5,000 down, potentially with some financing, a 1-acre lot, ocean view. Let's see, I assume that just about most of the construction has to be paid for in cash. Is that correct? Construction costs?
In most cases, yes, unless you bring in, the rule here is if you bring in 30%, the other 60% can be financed locally. That's for construction projects.
Right.
But you have to either you have to bring in those 30% and you have to convince the bank, which is not always the easiest thing. You know how banks are.
Right.
So what a lot of people do is instead of buying the lot for cash, they finance the lot and then they use the money they have to build the house and then just pay the lot off over time. Either by still working abroad or working here and getting paid abroad. Those are the two options essentially. What I would say, quite honestly, because we have quite a broad variety of properties, we've got 6 developments throughout Fiji. When people ask me, I would generally ask them for the lifestyle that they want to live. I said, we've got a fantastic development out on Coral Island. That's the off-grid community, solar homes, all that. If somebody wanted to have power to their block, we've got another development here on the main island, very closely located to the international airport, golf courses, restaurants, all that. So we definitely have different opportunities for people to look at. So I'd say when they contact me, I can definitely go through all of that and send them all the materials that they need and refer them to our websites as well.
Great. Super. So healthcare, relatively inexpensive, very inexpensive compared to the States, 100, depending on their health, somebody could get a private health plan. All the supplies, everything you need there, entertainment, it seems like, I don't know if we've missed anything, but it really sounds like it's very, very complete, very low crime, not a place where you're going to be able to move to and take your whole gun collection to. It sounds like that's against the law. So if they have guns, leave them at home, right? And
exactly, we wouldn't want them here, and you're not going to need them. So it's not the place for gun fanatics. Just get a fishing rod instead.
Hey, I'm a boat fanatic. I guess there's marinas there and the ability to have a boat and go fishing. What's the yachting and sport fishing like there?
It's excellent, quite honestly. We've got some of the best fishing in the South Pacific. We've got tremendous reefs. We've got a lot of variety of fish, obviously. We've got trevally, we've got tuna, we've got, you name it, barracudas. We've got, even there's shark diving out here. There's heaps of stuff to do when it comes to the ocean. And there's quite an abundance of fish still to some degree, while it's becoming less and less all over the planet, which is not different here. But, from the sport fishers that I talk to, they're really, really excited about what they do. You can buy boats here, everything from a small dinghy to take you around the bay, to bigger boats. Most of them actually get imported from New Zealand, where they're quite a bit cheaper, or even the US, where the boats are a bit cheaper than here. And it's also a paradise for divers. A lot of people hear about the Great Barrier Reef, for example, in Australia is a fantastic spot. We've got just the same here. We've got the Great Astrolabe Reef, which is just an unbelievable natural treasure. And Fiji hasn't been hit with coral bleaching as bad as many other places. So it's one of the best places in the world to go diving. So we get a lot of divers here as well.
That's great. That's super. Well, I kind of rank shark diving up there with skydiving. There's just two things I'm not, really don't want to do. So anyway, so we have great health care. We've got a great place to move to, and we've got your company. Is it Fiji Real Estate? I'm going to put it obviously below your picture here, but is it Fiji Real Estate?
Yes, it's Fiji Real Estate, and the website obviously would be the FijiRealEstate.com.
Okay.
And my email, if you wanted to contact me, is info@FijiRealEstate.com. It's very easy. The name is Joe, and I'm happy to talk to anyone that's interested and like I said, share my experiences here.
Great. Super. Well, Joe, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us and give everybody the insight on Fiji. Escape Artist readers, this is your ambassador in Fiji. So if you're looking for a great place to live, just a terrific quality of life, and maybe want to leave some of the Western mess behind, it sounds like Fiji is an absolute a great place, and I should mention, just to close, one of the happiest places on earth, or the happiest place on earth. I think it's the #1 title, right?
According to the latest poll, that Walloop came out with, Fijians ranked happiest people on the planet, and that certainly says a lot. They're very, very nice people. They're lovely people, great family-oriented people, and it's probably the greatest natural asset that we have here in Fiji is its people.
You can get a cold beer and you can play golf and you can fish.
You can.
Good. Super. And the Fiji water there is probably a little cheaper than it is in the United States. So if you're addicted to Fiji water and it's killing your budget, maybe moving to Fiji would be an economically smart thing to do for you. So, Joe, I appreciate your time. We'll get this out to our readership, and hopefully you'll have a lot of happy people come to Fiji and be even happier enjoying their lifestyle. So, again, thank you for your time.
Thank you. It was great talking to you, and have a great Super Bowl weekend over there.
Will do.
All right. Cheers. Bye-bye. Thank you.